I'm just waiting for you to.
All right, everybody, welcome to Office Hours, Co-Creative No Code's Office Hours this Friday morning. I'm so excited. We have so many people here this morning. We've got, let's see, June and Jay and Doreen and Paul are all here, and I'm sure Thomas will be joining us shortly. If this is your first time tuning into Office Hours, we do this every day of the week, Monday through Friday, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We welcome our members to bring all of their bugs, bubble feature requests, build along requests, any topic on Bubble that they want. And then if you would like to join us for a complimentary session, we offer one free session for all of our members at Co-Creative No Code's Facebook group. And you can go ahead and just comment on the live here today, and Kim can send you a link to join us on Zoom, or you can pre-schedule that with Kim as well, and she can send you a link to join us. So today we're going to start with June, but first I want to say welcome to everybody. So let me ask June to unmute now. So hi, Paul, it's good to see you. I was able to say hi to everyone else. Welcome.
You too. Hi, Tanya, nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, nice to hear yours. All right, June, are we ready for your question? Let's get started.
Yeah. So it's pretty easy. I have this repeating group.
Okay.
I'm supposed to, okay, I can't really preview because I don't have some examples on this, but so on the repeating group, I have this custom state. Yeah. I have this custom state so that I can select the bid, and then, if I select this bid, say like this one on this cell, so I need to hire, there's a button somewhere here to hire the selected bid. So for now, I just need to like understand how to, how to set up that if I click on this, it sets itself on that, on the custom set, on the selected list. Are you getting me?
Yes, I understand. And this is a tricky one, right? Because you also have to reconcile this particular state with the select all and the clear all, and also with the filtering.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can remember. So the first thing is just be able to select and deselect, right?
Sorry?
So the first issue is you don't have the selecting and deselecting working?
No, I just have the custom state on the repeating group to have this one, selected bids, and it's a list of bids.
Okay.
Yeah. So I need to know how to add the selected bids on that list.
Okay. So let's go to the workflow on the checkbox itself.
Sorry, on this checkbox.
Yep, on the checkbox. Whatever they're going to click to kick off the workflow.
Okay, I think okay.
Yeah, it looks like if it's an icon, you're probably there. You can do it from there.
Okay.
A lot of times, I don't know if Bubble has fixed this, but a lot of times we put icons in groups and make the groups have the workflow, and that way when you hover over the icon, the mouse will change, the cursor will change.
So do I have it on the group or on the icon?
I might group the icon into a group.
I have a group. I have a group here.
Yeah, so you could put it on there. That's fine. That would work.
Okay.
And then the action that you're looking for is going to be to set a state.
Okay.
Do you not have a scroll button? Like a scroller?
Just a moment, please. Yeah. So I'm going to set states.
Yep, so
of
set
an
state
element.
of an element. And then if you can't see the element specifically that you wanted, so go ahead and click there. So
The element that has the state, is that right?
yeah, so I usually put my states, my custom states at the page level. So
Okay.
because it's easier to find them.
Mm,
So I might recommend doing that instead of putting it on the repeating group itself. So you could just go
Okay.
ahead and so delete what you have there where it says repeat, where it starts to say repeat.
Sorry?
So go ahead and delete what you have there and pick dashboard instead.
Okay, even though it exists on the group, on the repeating group.
Yeah, because we'll create a new one because I think it's smarter. Greg John actually promotes this
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I've had that on the air dev classes, but I think I have another state and with the same name. Maybe I can just work with this one on the same place.
okay, so go ahead and choose dashboard.
Dashboard.
Yes.
Is
You'll
there
put
any
at-
problem if I use the repeating group? Because I'm thinking I can just use that one.
Yeah, the problem with it is honestly it's difficult to figure out where your custom states are later because any element can have a custom state. And so it's easier if you put it on the page level because then you can just go to the page's custom states and be pretty familiar with all of the custom states that you're working with on the page. So that's why I recommend it. It's not technically a problem to put it on the repeating group. So if that's what you choose to do,
Oh, okay.
that's fine. But yeah, the reason I would recommend doing it at the page level is because when you're trying to make changes later on and you're trying to find your custom states and what you've already used, it's much easier just to go to the page level and click the I button, the info button, and then see all of the custom states you're working with on the page.
Okay, maybe for now I can just use the repeating group.
Okay. And then go ahead and select the custom state. Hey, Thomas, welcome.
Hi.
So what will be the value?
So what type of custom state did you make?
A list of bids.
A list of bids. Okay, so the value is going to be the custom state itself. So repeating group bids selected.
Oh, okay. Repeating group bids.
And then selected. And then you'll add the current like the parent group's bid. So click more. And then a plus item.
Plus.
Yep, type in plus. It's at the very bottom.
Oh.
No, plus the word. There you go. Plus item and then parent group's bid.
No. Oh, okay.
Yep. And then you're only going to do this. So go back to the workflow itself. No. To go back to where you were. So the level up. So what you're in is in an action. So you need to select the workflow above it. I think your editor is in front of it. So move that away. Yeah. So click there and then only when.
Parent group's bid is not on that list.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Nope. So you're going to have to check the custom state. So nope. So delete that. Like you have the concept right, but the way you get to it is by saying repeating groups. Yeah. So repeating groups selected doesn't contain parent group's bid.
Nah, what do you mean? You should try it. Open it the office. Oh!
Yep. And then you'll just need to copy and paste that workflow. So right click on the workflow itself.
Yeah.
On this one, on the event or on the action?
That one. Yep, that one. So right click. and then copy, and then right click on it again and paste. And then now what you're going to do is you're going to change the
The
copy.
something in
Yeah.
the opposite.
exactly, do the opposite on both. And there you
Okay.
go. And that will work.
Okay, I think I'm fine for now.
Wow, this is great. Awesome. Jacob has joined us. And so I think the next person who arrived this morning was Doreen. Doreen, did you have something to work on today?
Yeah.
How can I
Hello?
help? Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Mine is actually getting an API.
Oh, you're working with an API? Which API?
Played.
Click.
The
Is-
played API.
Okay. Did you want to share your screen and show us where you're stuck?
Yeah. So here where you add the played after you okay, the step number 2 and 3. Set the keys inside of the plugins tab. When I go through the documentation,
There's very little documentation, I bet.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I've banged my head up against this one already. So, so where are you stuck exactly is setting the keys inside of the plugins tab?
Yeah.
Okay, so scroll down.
So I've set the keys. Okay, I'm not sure whether these are the keys that I'm supposed to be setting, but according to the documentation, I'm supposed to be using some app, Postman collection app.
Yeah, so using Postman to test your API key calls and things like that. Actually, so the first issue is you're probably testing on your development. Like when you click preview and you're testing it, you're testing on your development version. So the first issue is you're going to want to create dev keys and use the dev keys where it says optional.
Okay.
Because right now you won't be able to test anything because you're testing on development, but you don't have any keys posted there. So,
Okay. So how do I get the dev keys?
yep. So you're going to go to Plaid. You probably want to do this off screen though, because you don't want to show us are those dev keys as it is that you're showing us?
No.
Those are live keys. You're going to need to change them because you already put them on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're going to want to generate dev keys and Plaid will let you do that. Let me share my screen and I'll do it in sandbox mode.
Okay.
Can you stop sharing? Yeah, so this was super frustrating for me. Like sometimes APIs, they beat me. They beat me down. So in this case, I was trying to hook up the Plaid and Dwala together and I was having a heck of time. I actually met with the guys at, what is it, Copilot, who made one of the plugins for Plaid and still didn't get very far. Okay, I want to do, there we go. That's kind of a weird user experience, Plaid. Did you guys see that? Where it was like the button, like it was filled out, but it wouldn't let me
Oh.
button. That was weird. Okay, so this is where I am. Test in sandbox. Go. I already have this, so where is it? Support in docs. Let's go to nope, need settings. Okay, so here's my API keys and then allowed configure. My keys. This is a sandbox app. They don't have any of my payment information. So anybody who wants to like hack into this or whatever, good luck. Okay, so this is the sandbox key. And then they also have a development key. The development key, I forget their exact distinction, but I think the development key allows you to actually use real bank data, but not actually make charges. Whereas the sandbox key, you have to use fake bank information in order to complete test transactions. So I think that's the distinction. And I think you want to go with the sandbox here. And so you would just copy that key. And then that's what you're going to then put in here. Is this the same one that you're using?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so then that's what you would then come and put here in the dev here. And this is, I don't know if this is the same one that you're using. It looked a little different. This is the Copilot one. And then when it's asking for, you know, your Plaid client ID, secret ID, all of these different things, you'll notice a lot of these are repeated, right? It's the same information, just alternated. So you only really need two keys. You need your client ID and your secret, but you need the dev version here. So this is the client ID. And then this would be your sandbox key. And then you're going to alternate and put those in here. And that will get you to the point where you can start testing other pieces of the plugin. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the only thing that I need during the integration?
So that's for the Plaid integration. I don't know what you're planning to do with the Plaid integration. Like,
Okay,
I don't know the purpose of your app.
Like when I input the client ID and the secret ID, that's the only thing that I need to be able to work, to create the workflows.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome. Let's see. Jay, you came in. Do you have anything?
I went through the app, which is so close to being ready, with my VA yesterday, and have 4 pages of little things to fix.
Okay.
None of them are critical, and none of them are things that I can't get to on my own.
Okay.
So I'd rather let somebody else go. And if you have time left over that you want to fill, I can come up with a couple little things that are just a pain in the neck.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And Paul, or yeah, and Paul, did you have something for us today?
Yeah, I progress, but I'd like to discuss it quickly if you can. If you're
Sure, I'm here for the next hour and a half. I'm not going anywhere.
all right, great. Maybe I can share my screen
Sure.
with you guys. Okay, let me show. I'll share. I've kind of got a split screen here. So I'm going to share the whole thing with you so you can see it all. Can you see that?
Almost. It said you've started. Yep, now I can see.
Now you can see. Okay, so I have a new client, Insights by Experts, which essentially is an expert marketplace of kind of C-level experts across a number of industries in Africa. And I was very pleased to hear what I think are some East African accents on this call. So Jumbo, and nice to see you, hear you. So the key kind of, sorry?
I said, yeah, I'm happy to have those accents as well on the call.
Jumbo.
where are you from, Gina? I'm guessing either Kenya or Tanzania.
Yeah, I'm in Kenya.
Okay, great. Lovely to meet you. So it's very early days. I literally took this client on yesterday, and I'm busy looking at kind of the key pieces of functionality I need. So if you can see on the right-hand side of my screen, kind of the loose user journey is you search for an expert. This site you're seeing on the left here is a WordPress site that is broken beyond usability.
Okay.
Which I guess is why they needed rebuilt with Bubble, or why I've offered to rebuild it with Bubble. So what you want to do is you want to search for an expert, and these experts are, like the guy that ran Barclays for Africa and the MTN Nigeria CEO. And so it's quite heavyweight individuals who, it's going to be like $350 to $500 an hour to get access to them.
Okay.
And I don't expect that this is going to be, frequent stuff. So there's a database currently of 100 experts with about 1,000 others that could sign up. So it's like ad hoc type concept. I imagine you're going to search for it by country and by industry. You're going to select an expert and probably pay via payment. It's something I still need to learn. Then the scheduling becomes the issue. And if you might remember, Tanya, from my post on Facebook, we were discussing, there's a couple of ways to do that. The one way is you could actually have a calendar per expert, but then you need the expert to maintain that calendar, which I think in this case we're with kind of C-level people that are busy with many other them to integrate their calendar, portions of their calendar, I don't think is realistic. So my idea is to kind of have an interface where you can choose a couple of date times and then send an email to the expert saying so-and-so would like to book you for these times, which time works. And when they select a time, then I've integrated Google Calendar using Integromat and send out the invites to everyone based on that scheduled time. From a single calendar owned by this Insights by Experts. So invite the customer and the expert to a meeting. That way you still have visibility of, what the meeting is. So I was playing with this today and kind of got something working where I'll just show you. You're probably familiar with these date time pickers. And just to kind of as a proof of concept, the customer, the expert email, and then the workflow behind book here is. So I'm sure you're probably familiar, and I'm not sure if everyone on the call is familiar with that.
Familiar with what? I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm at the bottom of Africa and it's Friday evening. My children are streaming.
Yep, no worries. So. I understand. No, but you had said that we're familiar with what?
I said Integromat.
Oh, Integromat. Okay.
Integromat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's Integromat. Sorry, I'm pronouncing it wrong. So you're probably not sure if everyone else on the call or anyone watching this later is. Integromat is you get this, kind of my tables item, and then you open up backend, workflow APIs and data APIs to that table, and that's how you kind of integrate to Integromat. And then I have this concept of when you book this meeting, it creates a meeting item. Which I'm asking Integromat to watch for. So when a new meeting data thing gets created, Integromat picks it up here, and I've integrated my Google Calendar, which is actually really nice and simple because it just uses a normal, authentication dialogue. I think in time it's probably better to integrate, via the API connector, and not have to go through this sort of third-party integration, integrate directly. But as kind of a proof of concept, this works. So how it's working. So imagine that you've selected 3 times and you've sent the emails backwards and forwards and opened a form, and at that point you want to let's wait for this to load. You want to select a date, time for the meeting. So you would probably 3 of these, send them to the expert and then have the expert one. But let's imagine that's all done and we're looking at a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and the customer might be me. And the expert might also be this use case. And when you book it, it goes and creates a record, this meetings data type. And if I go back to Integromat, which is watching for that table, and obviously you would schedule this to run, I don't know what your advice is on that or experience on that is, Tonya. Does it run every minute or every 10 minutes or whatever? But let's just run it once for the purposes of this meeting. And you can see it's picked up that meeting and scheduled. In fact, if I go to my, I think we said tomorrow, meeting sitting in my calendar. So, and you could, you can schedule, you can put that in the shared calendar, which is the company's calendar, and invite both the customer and the expert. So that if they want to change a meeting time, they can kind of come back to you and you can move that, if you moved that meeting, it would move it for everyone. So when we spoke on Facebook, I hadn't kind of got to this point, and I was looking for a solution, but that's I've kind of got to one of the different on that or better ways or things to look out for within Integromat.
So it looks like you have Integromat working. I don't know what I don't know if there's a cost to increasing the frequency with which you have Integromat check for the information. I know that when your API gets hit, it's going to take a little bit of capacity. I think like on the Bubble side. But you're, like you said, it's not a terrible, the better way to do it is if you can push information into Integromat. Have you looked into being able to trigger Integromat from Bubble? Like
I haven't, to be honest, it's the first time I've used Zapier before. I've never used Integromat. I mean, I think what I would probably prefer to do is to use the API connector to connect to the Google Calendar API. And
I would definitely prefer that as well. Like for you,
I was just trying to get something kind of working quick and dirty that I can show, kind of a user journey that makes sense. But I don't know the pricing of Integromat, but I imagine if you're scheduling, 1,000 of these a month, it's going to start getting expensive.
Yeah,
and as you say, it's going to be constantly watching that Bubble API as well, which is going to
it's much more efficient because Bubble should be able to send a signal to, your API connector should be able to connect to Google's Calendar. If there's not already a plugin that would allow you to do that, you should be able to accomplish it just by sending information.
There are some plugins. There is a zero code plugin for that, which I did install, but I couldn't really make heads or tails of what. I think I would rather use the API connector.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the. Yes, natively. I agree. A lot of times, like the just because there's a free plugin doesn't mean it's free. Like it might be free, it might be free to download it and install it and all of that fun stuff. But in terms of the time and energy that you spend trying to make up for a lack or gaps in the documentation or changes, yeah, a lot of times it's just easier to get familiar with the API calls. So yeah, but I think what you have planned
the
here.
Google Calendar API is there.
Yeah.
So carry on.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think that the structure that you've laid out makes a lot of sense. The only like optimization I could see is maybe an optional where the C-suite user could at least sync their calendars. So you could even just propose a few times, like which of these times work for you, choose 3. Like that sort of thing. So just to,
I see, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just to reduce a little bit of the back and forth, right? So that way the C-suite user doesn't have to be.
How would that work?
Yeah, that well, I mean, you would just be just checking their calendar for periods of time that are free, like during the times that maybe they select, I want to do this in the afternoons or something like that. And then you just check for like the first 3 available or something like that. And say like, or not even the first 3, you could say, pick 3 out of these 10, right? That you're also available. But that way it's not so constraining on the C-suite user, because they don't have to like reserve specific times. They always have the option of saying I'm not available. So that's just one idea.
Yeah, because practically that's how it, just because my calendar is open tomorrow afternoon doesn't mean I want to meet you tomorrow afternoon.
Exactly.
That's that. But that just to that open auth, so that then you would have an open auth in the app to their calendar, right? I've never done that in Bubble. Am I understanding that correctly? So you'd have a page that says connect your calendar in your account, Mr. C-suite expert, so that I can check your diary.
Yep.
Is that correct?
One of the things you might consider doing is having a login with Google option, and then putting that into the scopes, the calendar as one of the scopes of doing that. And then you could have a separate one where they could connect a calendar, or maybe they can connect multiple calendars if you wanted to go fancy with it. But yeah, you would definitely need the OAuth part. There is one resource for anyone who's connecting with OAuth stuff that I will just throw out there, because even like if you ask Bubble support, they don't know about it, and it drives me nuts that they don't. But OAuth, let me find it. OAuth issues resolved. That's how I put it in my reference here. Let me copy this link. I'll put it in the chat, and then Kim, if you could also put it in the comments. So you want to read through this, because otherwise your OAuth tokens will expire every like 20 minutes or less, and then it'll drive you nuts. So this will help you figure that part out.
That's very useful. That's very useful. Thank you. Cool, but yeah, so thanks. I thought I needed a lot more help once I kind of got into it. I found Integromat, and it's kind of I guess a quick and low scale solution, but it's pretty great what you can do with it.
Yeah, and I think scheduling it to run every minute to start is probably good enough, because you can make small talk in a demo for a minute, right? But yeah, I definitely
exactly,
think, yeah, I definitely think your OAuth idea is the better way to go.
Yeah, I think I'll do that. I just didn't have time to figure out the API, the Google Calendar API kind of format and syntax, but I'm sure it's no harder than any other API.
Awesome. Perfect. Thomas, did you have anything?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have anything for us today?
No, I'm just tuning in.
Just tuning in?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that means everybody's questions have been answered so far. should we circle back to Jay? I think you said you had some stuff.
Yes. Let me glance at my list and pick the worst one.
Yes.
The
Give
worst,
me your worst, Jay. Give me your.
I've got a few that I have no idea how. I'm like looking at them thinking, how did I do that? I can't even seem to reverse engineer a couple. Okay, so the one that I think is the most frustrating because it shouldn't be a problem is the message center, the messages. Let me. So this is built off of a tutorial from Tip Lister. And I think that the main issue is that, you know how you program stuff in a way that makes sense for your own way of thinking?
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't, I just think I'm having trouble wrapping my brain around it. It's not complicated. The problem is clearly me. I'm okay with that. So I've got conversations. And each one only has a list of messages and a list of users. I've got a list of messages or a data type of message. The conversations, it's type of conversations. And this is all just stuff for me. None of the other stuff matters. And then in users, there's a list of conversations and that's it.
Okay.
So
just one point.
Yeah.
Are you making a conscious decision to go against my advice when you keep a list of messages in your conversations data type?
Keep a list of messages in my conversations data type. Hold on. Let my brain catch up.
Yep.
No.
So, okay.
I'm not making a conscious decision. I just followed the tutorial.
Okay. I wouldn't keep a list of messages on a conversation. I would just delete, I would go ahead and deprecate that. And then what I would do is just have it the way you have it structured, where the message goes back, like is linked back to the conversation. And the reason for that is just because when somebody really likes talking to somebody else, they're sending like LOL as one message. You're going to hit the 10,000 limit on your list of messages pretty quickly.
So then with the conversations not having a list of messages, then the way that I find the conversations to add to them in a workflow would be just to search for conversations that contain both users.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the purpose of this is.
Well, I mean, it's sometimes easier to say, oh, go to this conversation. Like if you load a conversation on a page and then your repeating group is just referring to the current page's conversations list of messages, that's pretty easy. I can understand why that would seem easier, but because you're definitely like, when you have a conversation between new users or two users, it's definitely going to exceed 10,000 pretty quickly. Like I'm not talking about in a year. If you have two people who talk on a regular basis through your system and they're just chatting back and forth, within a month, you could hit that limit and the messaging will break. So.
That all makes sense. I'm just wondering what I'm going to break that I have to redo when I make that change. So
yeah, don't make the change now. It's just a heads up, and you can use the app search tool to find all of the places where you use that field to find all of the places where you need to change the reference to a do search instead.
Yes. So that I'm okay with breaking it, because why not break it now? I'd rather break it now.
Okay.
It's like now's the right time. However, so what I've been doing is like, this is the message center. So you're already in here and you message someone. So this is the most straightforward workflow. You just do what this stuff says. It's no big deal. But then when I get to other parts of the site and I want to message a user, these workflows, they seem to be not working consistently. In my test to myself playing different users, they work. But when my VA and I were trying to message each other back and forth, that wasn't working. And maybe that's why, because I see that workflow is, oh, that's me. Okay, duh. They were just not working. Oops, okay. Well, pop-up message. Creating a new conversation, then creating a new message, okay? So really all I'm doing is adding it. And then in other places where what I was doing, and I don't seem to have done it here, is do a search for the first step, if there's no conversation with these two, adding that constraint, like here, do a search.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Am I making
Sure.
sense?
Yep, absolutely.
That's the right way to do it, right?
Yep, it is.
Okay. So it sounds like what I need to do is take out that field and see what happens. I can always roll back.
Okay.
That'll simplify things anyway. Let me see if I still have a problem at that point.
The one thing is go to the data tab and go to privacy.
Oh yeah, I always forget. Nothing.
Yeah, so let's just make sure your messages and your conversations and your user privacy rules. Yeah, it's probably the user privacy rules might be getting you into trouble.
Yes, because I added them earlier and I've made changes since.
Yeah.
User, where is it? List of conversation. There it is. So that should be okay.
Okay. So any logged in user can see another user's list of conversations.
Good.
No, but I mean, like I would definitely check in with your privacy rules to see if there's something on the messages or something that's preventing the other user from like the problem that you were having with your VA yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely will do that. I always forget, and that's the way it is.
We always do.
So since you have time, I've got a general kind of question that I think other people would be interested in as well.
Sure.
So this site in particular, I want to hit US and Australian markets first, but I want it to be international. So throughout the site, I think the technical term is half-assed it by just making displays that would change from inch to centimeter when a user was from US or Australia. And obviously, I know that's wrong. I just don't know where to put that stuff in. Like when they log in, I'm capturing their geographical position. So I can get their country code. And then I know that unless they're the US or Myanmar or Libya, they are metric non-imperial. So the thing is, when a user like in Australia uploads that they purchased something for X Australian dollars, I'm really unclear on what has to happen next. Like, does it display as AU $sign no matter who looks at it? And then where's the conversion happen? Because I don't think it makes sense to make the conversion happen every time it displays. That seems like more work. It should probably happen in the database, or should it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, so if I'm a user and I want to see things like you're talking about users sharing information about how much they paid for things.
For example, yes, or how deep something is or how wide it is.
Okay. So I guess you could create the fields, but like you're just talking about like currency and then units, measurements of units.
Yes.
So yeah, I would show things the way they're entered. So like if somebody's from Australia, when it comes to currency, they'll enter their number just like everyone else, but there's going to be a field for currency and it would be AUD, right? And then everywhere it shows, you show the currency that the user like picked. So it's $10 AUD in that case. So that way it's consistent for them and it's also consistent for the other users who are looking at it, and you're not playing around and trying to say, oh, like do actual conversions of AUD into USD so I can better understand it. You're just, trusting that people understand that AUD is different than USD.
Yeah, later I can add a little convert this button, but that's an API, and I mean, I can mess with that, but I don't see any.
Yeah, but the problem is the conversion, like, I mean, yeah, you'd have to do an API because the conversion rate is changing all the time. It's one of the ways I make money with my investments, is the fact that it changes all the time. So like, yeah, I don't think that your users are going to expect to be able to make that conversion, right? So, I mean, if you want to do that so that they can just click a button to see what that would be in USD, you could do that. But I wouldn't really
I
bother
don't
with
think
it.
care. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think people
in
care either.
Australia, then you know what it is, and you're only concerned with that.
You care if somebody's trying to sell you something in a different currency. That's
Yeah.
when you care. Or
That's
when you're trying to sell something, you know? So you care when there's a transaction around it, but just in terms of record keeping, I think it's fine just to say the number and then the currency. For the conversions, there's only two systems for the units of measurement.
Yeah.
It's just imperial and metric, right?
Yeah.
And so for that, it would be maybe a little bit of a lift or whatever. Maybe there's an API for it or whatnot, but I'd probably just save both.
I do. Somewhere in here, they have a choice of metric or imperial. It's captured when they sign in. So I've got that data as part of the sign-in process. But then
No. I mean, like on the data types where you have the like where you're saving the, like when you're saving the height of something, for instance.
Yeah.
Like I might have I might save it as like I'm trying to think of how you would do this. Might want to designate that in some way, like the record where that field is, you could mark it in some way as being imperial or metric, right? So that way is like you could show a condition on condition when someone's visiting someone else's like plant or garden or whatever on Garden Brain, they will be seeing the units just the same way as with the currency, based on like something on that record itself that says which type it was entered in.
So that means that I dread making this change just because this was so fussy. But that means that over in here at the flower finder, which I'm sure you're sick of looking at.
But yeah, does it, because nothing changes except on the record itself. When you create the record, you just also save a field so that it knows the user's why am I spacing on how to even say that system of measurement?
Except for this.
That's a great question, Paul. I just saw your question and I'll answer that in a moment. What was that, Jay?
Except for on the sliders. Like I think I'm going to have to do a little more work when it comes to the sliders.
Oh, got it. Yeah, that might get tricky.
Because the sliders don't offer you the option of imperial metric, you just pick.
Yeah, I know you want to go global, but I think I'd probably just stick with imperial for now, because that's your initial target, and that's
it was, but it's already the end of July. So now it's kind of making sense to think about Australia first, because they're going to start growing in a couple of months.
Oh, got it. I hear you. Yeah.
So I am putting a little thought into it. I mean, if I have to launch with just imperial, then that's what I'll do, because
I think what I would do in that case though is just like make a note that like have them save which system it is up front, like you have.
Yeah.
And then like on your slider input, just make it unit of conversion, like agnostic, right? And then after, like when you have time to come back, then you can make the other more material changes.
So if it's that, I think is the right approach. So if the slider is agnostic, like 144, the max value is inches to an American, but centimeters to an Australian, then I don't really have to worry about that. The display is all that matters.
Right.
CM after it. And that's how it's currently set up. Okay, anything with numbers, my brain just totally shuts down.
Yes.
It's mathophobia, and it's a serious disability in the world we live in today.
Yep.
Wish I'd overcome it young. So then I had a question because we have international people here. I'm interested in knowing how they feel about when they use sites that don't serve them with their own weight measurement systems. Can you guys talk about that as users
Paul and
or anybody?
June and
I didn't
Kim.
quite
Yeah,
get the question.
I mean,
Let's start with.
I
Let's
can
start
comment
with.
on that maybe, June.
Yeah, go for it, Paul. That would be great.
Sorry, Jay, not June. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a little bit of an odd case because I've lived in the US as well. But certainly before living in the US, if you're going to talk to me about pounds and inches, I would have quite a hard time understanding what you're talking about. So look, I think it's quite a big deal is what I'm saying to you. If you're talking to someone in South Africa or Australia, or in fact anywhere in Africa, and you're talking about, you're not talking about centimeters and grams and kilograms, you're talking about ounces or inches or any of those things. I think it's quite a disconnect for us.
Thank you.
Just like it would be a disconnect for me to go to Garden Brain that was conceived by someone using the metric system. I don't know. I'd go on there and I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so hard. So
Yeah, the dollars don't, the currency never bothers me because I can just, you're used to Googling it. Plus, I kind of roughly know, usually it's pounds, let's face it, or euros. And I kind of know, most of us kind of know what they're worth today. But I have to look up.
I agree.
yeah.
Currency is not an issue.
Yeah.
But I think, centimeters versus inches or ounces versus grams. Like I've no idea what an ounce weighs. No idea.
And then the beauty part of doing the agnostic weights and measures as opposed to currency is that, ultimately my market could be people anywhere in the world, and I don't have to worry about that. I only have to let them upload currency in their native currency, and that would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's good. That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Paul asked the question, could you explain the 10,000 limit? Is that a limit on the number of records in a table? And no, it's not actually. It's a limitation on Bubble's
Thank God.
field. It's the field. So a field that references other records in the table. So like if I make a list, a field that's a list here, I can share my screen to illustrate. And it's an important limitation to know about, honestly. Let's see here. I'll just do this. So if I'm in my data table and I make a list of something else, so let's say something else. And then I'm in my user table and I say something else's. And I make this a list of something else. This is limited to 10,000. So my reference, my list here of something else's is limited to 10,000. And
so I'm just trying to follow what you've done there. So you've created a data type of something else, and then you've created a list.
Right. So if I had 20
user data.
Yeah, if I had 20,000 things in my database of something else's, and I wanted to have this list reference all 20,000 of them here, I couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I could list the first 10,000, but not the second. Yeah. Yeah. It's a really important one. And it's great. Really important to like overestimate rather than underestimate. I've had a couple of apps now where we've built custom like uploading plugins or whatever to be able to upload like to create many thousands of records and things. And
Mm,
the problem
mm.
is that we keep running into is we underestimate, like when the client comes and says, oh, I want to be able to like upload more than 100. We don't follow up with the question, well, what's the absolute maximum amount that you might want to do with this? And then have them come back and say, oh, well, it's, you know, I want to be able to upload 5,000 things, and then you need to triple it, right? Because we've had that happen now a couple times where our clients will actually pay us to create a bulk uploading or something like to do it, and then they immediately break it because they use it for a number much greater than we anticipated.
Yes,
So,
yes,
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, and this in particular,
but in the case, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, this in particular caught us off guard because we had a reference of something to something else, and we thought, no way they would ever, like the developer consciously made a decision to use a list of things and said, no way they'll ever have more than 500. And the very first out of the gate, they needed 13,000. So
Got you.
Yeah,
Got you. But there's no problem in principle, you know, for example, I mean, I know you've looked at my culture assessment app. So
yeah,
I externalized all of those survey results for every word that's related to a culture trait that someone clicked on. I created a database record. I externalized that into Postgres because I was worried about Bubble. But in theory, you know, creating a data type with very small records of someone clicked on this word, someone clicked on that word, someone clicked on the next word, having, you know, thousands, I mean, you could potentially have hundreds of thousands of records that you're then aggregating. Is that sort of, you know, I mean, in traditional relational databases, that's good practice, you know, to break down data into its smallest part. But would you advise that in Bubble, or would you rather store like, you know, a larger data type with like 100 fields for each option that they could select? If you're following my question.
Yeah, I do a mix of both, right? There's always like that fine line that you're walking with it, and it's, you know, I learn new things all the time. So in Canvas, we have one data type that has crazy amounts. Let me find June's Handbox. So if I go in here, like our user data type has crazy amounts on it. I started breaking my users out into like having profiles instead. One of the reasons was privacy rules. But like, just like, this isn't too bad, but there's sometimes when you're adding different blocks and things on a canvas base, it gets crazy. This is the website data type. And there's only one entry on the data type, but this is how Canvas works. Like, this is the basis of how the Canvas template works, is you have one thing in the database that is this data type, and it's like the master reference for the whole app. So I'm not afraid to make data types with a ton of different things here. But like, I'm running into it right now where we have a list of images, right? And then you're like, okay, well, even though the plugin allows you to change the order of that list, because that could be tricky, right? If you have a list of things that is a reference of stuff. Let me see if I can find anything here. Like, if you have a list, so I create list of type user or anything, right? And so I have a list of things. Controlling the order of that list in JavaScript and other programming languages, I'm sure that's they do that all the time. Bubble, for some reason, is crazy hard to control and manage the matching of orders of lists. It's just not, it's hard. So like, I wouldn't do that. I would create, if I needed to control the order of this, I would definitely create a geographic
Yes.
address type and then have it reference instead, because then I can make changes to the order and reset the list. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I've kind of hardly ever used lists. So I have another app which is the grading of kids at early learning kids across 10 categories of skills and up to 17 specific skills within that category. So you've got potentially, 170 items to grade a kid on. But so you could treat that as a list, but I prefer to treat that as a grade record, which has a category, a skill, and a grade. So you end up with hundreds of thousands of records, but at least
You do.
you can aggregate. You can aggregate on any dimension you want. You're not kind of stuck in this either very wide data type or worse still a list data type where you have difficulty, choosing which grade of reading in the history of reading grades are you interested in, if you follow me. So I'm kind of I go the other way, which I'm a little bit concerned about with Bubble, because I could end up with tens or hundreds of thousands of records in a data type, which I don't know how Bubble handles that.
I don't worry about that. So because when you do if I understand Petter's the ultimate guide to Bubble performance.
Yes, I've read it as well. Yes.
Guide to Bubble performance. So for anybody watching the replay,
Yes.
we highly recommend this book.
That's great.
This is his on Gumroad, so you can come here. It's like $15 or something like that. Oh,
Yeah,
he's
it's
asking for 25.
money well
It's worth more than that. I definitely recommend this book. So if I understand him correctly, and from what I understand is when you're constraining a search in the main constraints. So if I'm on, this page here. So if I go to my repeating group here, and I'm going to do a search for a data type. When I constrain here, I'm constraining what the results I'm going to get back from the server.
Yes.
Right. Whereas if I do a filter, I'm going to get all of the results back to my browser.
Yes.
And then it's going to try to filter it out.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of working with, I don't think you have to worry with the number of items in Bubble's database so much as you have to worry about the relationships between those items, like the views of them that you want, because that can get tricky. And then making sure you have a good plan for if I want to return 20,000 results to my user, I can't do it in one page without breaking things and without making it a painful experience. So, yeah.
Got you.
But I think,
Okay,
I mean,
thank you for that.
the fact that you've connected your own external database and you're familiar with that, that's huge. I'm going to start planning for some things in backend lists with an app, because the relationships of the data are so complicated and Bubble's not suited for it. And I'm looking forward to how that expands my understanding of what's possible as well. So we're going to build it in Bubble, but we use the backend list database instead.
Okay, I must check that out, because I did it mostly just because I had no idea, and my experience with other low-code platforms like Mendix or OutSystems was not great if you use their own databases. But I think Bubble actually runs on MySQL or Postgres or something like that anyway. So it probably was an unnecessary step, and probably cost me time somewhat unnecessarily. And I'm not doing that in the projects I'm on at the moment. I'm just using the Bubble database to work
the Bubble
as well.
The Bubble database is pretty amazing what you can do with it. Algolia search, if you're having problems with slow search and complicated search, It's expensive, but it also helps a lot because you can get you can use the bubble database, but you can get the information a lot faster. So
Okay.
yeah, but I
I'll
have
remember
seen
that. Thank you.
a previous dev who was connected. He was using Python for his, like, he was using Bubble as a, I don't know, like the frame of his app rather than the foundation and everything all in one. He was using it for the front
Okay.
end user experience, but he was writing all of his workflows in Python. And then he had his own, I forget whether it was SQL, it's probably SQL database. And he was like making, like, he managed to make it work, and he had like 10 million records in his database. So I was
Wow.
quite impressed, and it was fast, and it was like,
Okay,
whoa, I didn't know you could do that.
I wouldn't have thought of doing that. I would have thought if you're creating your own database and a middleware layer in Python, you would just build it in React or something. But that's interesting.
I
Good to
don't know why. I wondered that quite, like, I wondered that. I even asked him, I was like, so why are you building this in Bubble again? But he seemed to think that Bubble was making some of the easier dev work easier on his team. So
Okay.
works if it worked for him. So I should check in with him and
Good
see
to
if
know.
he
Good,
stayed on
yeah,
Bubble.
nothing,
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you don't have a strong front end development and you're happy with the relative limitations of Bubble's, responsive design and what have you, then it's super fast. Why not?
Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. And Thomas, we haven't touched on you at all today. You're like, I'm just listening.
Yeah, I'm driving right now to go visit my family, and it's just the traffic is taking forever, so I didn't want to interrupt with all the background noise.
Awesome, no worries. Drive
But
safely.
Would be really cool. Thank you. Would be really cool to see just expand a little more, maybe reach out to that guy about what he did with that Python, using Python backend, because that does sound really interesting.
Oh,
or at least a guide on something like that.
He hated this section of Bubble, the workflow section of Bubble. He felt very constrained by it because he was a Python developer, I guess, and he knew what he was doing. And so he's like, there's so much faster, it's so much more efficient if I just do the workflows myself. I'm like, okay. And so he was using it for the design, but his front end dev team was really frustrated because they were JavaScript developers. So they were like, but I could do this so much faster if it wasn't on Bubble. So, but there was some advantage that he got from Bubble that he really appreciated. So, but yeah.
Okay, it just goes to say you can make anything work.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's really true, because especially when you consider the power of this tab here, the My Plugins tab, is you can go in and you can create a plugin for any of your apps, and then you're like, you can do whatever you want in here, right? So you could come in here and do your actions and do your code and all of that fun stuff and get whatever you want done using JavaScript. And then, it's just super powerful. I don't know how to use this, by the way. I just know it exists. So I know enough about JavaScript to know that it's super powerful.
I hope I never have to use it.
Yeah, I hope I never have to use it. Bubble.
Sure it is.
Yeah. No, but
Sorry, does that make me a bad developer? I don't want to have to write JavaScript.
no, it doesn't at all. It doesn't at all. I think I want to learn.
Thank you, Tanya, for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it, all of you. So, does anybody have anything else we want to chat about today? I'm super excited. It's we're at the countdown. So 2 weeks from today, we're going to have Eli Beachy's joining us, and we're going to have him for the full 2 hours. And Thomas is already keeping track of questions that we want to ask Eli and things we want him to show us. And then we're going to have a build along with him as well. So
And
we've
who-
got to pick
So
what we
can
want.
figure out questions to ask him. What is he known for?
So Eli is the tech, is sort of the tech support person at AirDev. So whenever we have technical issues and we get stuck developing our apps, either as devs or PMs at AirDev, we submit a tech support ticket and it goes to Eli. And he's very good at helping us figure things out. And he's also the one who said, oh, we should use backend lists for this. And so he's going to be the senior dev on that project, helping us with the data structure and things like that. Find Eli if you're interested to know more. He's on Twitter and he posts like these, Eli. Yeah. He posts these tutorials that are just amazing. Like he had one, a week or two ago when they released the format as Java, or not Java, format as JSON safe. Yeah, so here, when, so Bubble released a new function, formatting is JSON safe. And he's like, he does this whole, like he explains it and then he comes in here and you can go see the tutorial, like watch his Loom video of what he's talking about. I think this is the Loom video. So, nope, that's not the Loom video, but he does a lot of tutorials. He calls it lazy bubbling. So super excited to have Eli on. So that's coming up. And then if there are no other questions or anything from anyone today, I guess we could go ahead and wrap up office hours. Going once.
Thank you for your help.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, everyone. And we will be back here. We will be doing this all over again on Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And if you want to join us, if you want to join the membership so you can come to all of the Zoom sessions, it's $49 per month. You can sign up at co-creativenocode.com. And then you have access to all of our Zoom calls, and we do one each day of the week. So if you're interested in that, please do sign up. We would love to see you. And thank you again for all of our members who showed up today and our guests as well. And I will see you on Monday.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
You're
Take it
welcome.
easy.
Bye.